On paper, Ground Branch by Blackfoot Studios is everything I would hope to find in a hardcore tactical shooter. It identifies itself as having a strong and unrelenting focus on tactical realism. They recently announced a partnership with my all-time favourite producers, MicroProse. It was an email from them which actually directed me towards Ground Branch in the first place. I saw it and I made an instant purchase. Annoyingly, I did that a mere couple of minutes before the discount was activated. And perhaps the most convincing thing of all is that they are led by one of the original developers for Rainbow Six series. Now, I'm talking about the Rainbow Six series back in the day when it was really tactical and really good. So I was surprised when I felt like returning the game after my 2-hour Steam window had ended. And that not only surprised me, it actually irritated me quite a bit too, because I couldn't really pinpoint what it was that I didn't like about the game. It was just an overall impression that failed to live up to my expectations. I left a not recommended review and I tried to explain my reasons and was literally about to refund the game. But I really felt like there must be something here that I was missing, something I didn't see, or something that would convince me that Ground Branch was worth investing in. So I decided to head over to the Ground Branch Discord. I introduced myself, I explained my situation, and I wanted to see if the community there could help me to identify exactly what it was that I thought I was missing from those 2 hours in the game. The community manager happened to be there, and he immediately offered to set up a stream to help showcase the game and allow me to ask him some questions and try and fill in those missing parts. And that was despite him having to leave for work almost immediately. So he took time out of his day to really try and push the game home for me, and I really appreciate that. Now, he said that he was convinced he could change my mind about refunding the game in just a few minutes, so I graciously accepted his offer and I jumped in with a few of his team into a live stream, which I will share with you at the end of this video. First of all though, this review is going to be delivered in 2 parts. Now that's not something I usually do. What I want to do here is to highlight the difference, if there is any, between a 2-hour review and a more extensive multi-hour review. There's a few reasons for this, but fundamentally it's because there have been times where 2 hours just don't seem enough time to really fully appreciate the game. Especially if it's a game where you need a bit of time in order to set your systems and your controls up and just get used to the way that the game plays itself. And I would really like Steam to reconsider their position on those time limits. I would also like to see Steam introduce the option for a neutral review stance when reviewing games on Steam. I think it's time we had that placed as well. So this is my first 2 hours review. The first thing I did was head straight to the training area. Now the gun on the table is the go-to point for gun configuration, but there's little guidance here as to how it all works, so I had a quick look and then progressed straight onto the range. Now if you're completely new to hardcore tactical shooters, or you're more used to an arcadey shooty type game, then the first thing that you'll probably notice is that there is significantly less HUD than you are used to. There's no maps, there's no ammo indicators, actually there's pretty much nothing here at all. This is hardcore, and I really like that. Even though I like it, it did take me a few games to get used to the fact that I didn't know how many rounds I had left in my magazine. And that actually brings me to my first complaint. There doesn't seem to be, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be a way to check the magazine ammo. And I think that's something that we should definitely have introduced. But it also very quickly and almost immediately leads me to my first positive. The guns sound excellent, and I just knew that they would. Reload times and gun switching was fast yet realistic, and the bullet holes and the whole aiming system seemed to suggest very accurate physics, at least for short-range combat. So at this point I decided to set up my own profile using my Logitech G Hub. Now everything seems to be completely customizable, so I am immediately reversed the lean buttons, so Q is to lean right and E is to lean left. If you haven't tried that, I highly recommend it. It really, really makes things a lot quicker and a lot easier. But I also noticed that there was no button to go prone. And it turns out that that's not currently in the game, which is obviously a negative. Now, I've heard that it is coming in the future, but yeah, for now, in the first 2 hours, it's not there, so that's a negative. Now, I felt that I had the basics down. I felt like I could learn the rest on the job. So I jumped out of training and decided to jump into what's called a lone wolf mission. I picked the 747 mission. I loaded into the preparations area, which I immediately started sweeping, thinking that I was already on the mission. It turns out that this is actually the waiting room. Now, there are some really nice features here, which I was totally oblivious to at this point, and I will discuss them in more detail later on. But in this first 2 hour segment, I was completely unaware of all the features and content that's available here. It adds a bit to the game, but I don't think it's a game changer by any means, and I will discuss it later, so we'll leave it there for now. So what I did discover that is there's a basic range, there's a gun configuration area, actually there's two, but like I say, I'll talk about that later. There's a night vision range, which I thought was a nice touch, but actually I didn't bother trying out because why would you? And then there's the mission briefing area. So with a little bit of fumbling around and looking about, I literally jumped into a game with 15 trained AI and a mission where my objective was to locate and retrieve the objective, with no real mention of what the objective was. At this point, I thought maybe it was a hostage, but I honestly didn't know. So I jumped into the game, and my first attempt was pretty acceptable. I shot a few guys. I did get caught out with no ammo. Now, this is a negative that I mentioned already about not being able to check your ammo, but there are actually a few more issues with the whole gun ammo situation, which I haven't actually got to the bottom of yet. And even in my first 2 hours, it was definitely a problem. So the issue I had was that at times it sounded like the gun had reloaded, but it actually hadn't. On one occasion, having had this problem a few times, I deliberately reloaded my gun and fired a single round just to make sure that it had a bullet in the chamber. But then when I went to use the gun, there were no bullets in it. So I think it's not necessarily a bug. It's like a communication breakdown issue. Now, I am aware, don't worry, this is the first 2 hour review, remember. I am aware that there are two different ways of reloading the weapon. At the time, I didn't, and again, that comes down to a negative. This is vital information that needs to be provided to the user before they go in and sort of start playing. I think what it is that the magazine changing animation is just a little bit too subtle. I think there's a slight audible difference between a good magazine and an empty magazine, but in all honesty, it needs to be clearer. I mean, if there's no magazine at all on my person, then there should be no reload whatsoever. And it should sort of visually indicate that there's nothing in there. Show me the clip, or show me that it's empty. Something to really indicate that it's clear. Maybe the tutorial is more enhanced than I realized, but in my first 2 hour video, I was having this problem more often than not. In addition to that, which is more concerning and it is a bug, I had numerous occasions where the gun simply did not fire, even though it was definitely loaded. Most of the time, this happened with my main gun and not my second gun, but it's a bug that I have seen other people experience on different YouTube channels and different YouTube videos that I've watched since then. And I know it's early access, there are going to be bugs, and to be honest with you, bugs are not enough to put me off a game anyway. So I decided to explore the equipment that's available to me, and there is a massive selection of guns and attachments on offer. And this is an area which impresses quite a bit, I have to say. The gun modelling is excellent throughout, as are all the attachments, but there just needs to be more attachment detail. I live in the UK, and 75% of the people in the UK have probably never even seen a gun, let alone shoot one. Now, I am an exception to that rule, but even I struggled to find which combinations worked well together. And I also had some strange situations where I literally couldn't ADS. Now, I'm not sure if that's something I did. I'm still not sure if it's something I did or the configuration was wrong, but it just seemed to ADS on the wrong part of the gun, and I couldn't find any way of changing that. As an overview of this section, I'd say it has impressive depth, lacks information, and has the occasional bug and some mechanics that weren't well explained. I think there could be more work done on the tutorial for for new players coming into the game and complete noobs. We don't all just play shooty games. Some of us actually have other interests than just this, but it doesn't mean that we're not hardcore tactical fans. When we get into it, we want to get into it hardcore, but you know, a new game, a new way of doing things, just a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help is all we're asking for. Someone, you know, a little bit of text just to say, hey, look, if you hold your gun out too long, your arm's going to get tired. Nobody mentioned that to me either. But we'll come to that sort of stuff later. That's for after the 2-hour review. So I had a few attempts at it, using a few different weapon combos and attachments. I took a few different approaches. I attacked the 747 from both sides of the map. I finally discovered the laptops, and I actually almost completed the mission a few times, but for some silly mistakes, and quite often a gun not firing when it should fire. That caused me quite a few problems, actually. What I discovered was that the AI are absolutely lethal, even on this low level of difficulty. If you get shot, you're pretty much going to die. But they're also a little bit dumb, quite often popping their heads out rather obligingly so that you can just shoot them. Now, I've got to say, I really did like the close quarters, the CQB intensity, especially in that 747 where there's not a lot of room to move around. And the audio in that environment worked quite well. And I also quite liked how the windows shattered here. There's definitely a lot of positives that came out of this gameplay experience. So I decided that I was feeling rather comfortable with the game. I knew how the mechanics worked. I was getting most of my shots on target. I needed to do a little bit of tweaking in terms of sensitivity, but certainly things were moving in the right direction. So I decided it was time for me to try out the multiplayer. Now, the number of available open servers was very, very limited, but in the game's defense, I found a game and joined it in less than 60 seconds. I noticed that despite playing in 4K, everything at a distance was pixelated, and it was a little bit difficult to see what was going on. Now, this is something you learn to overcome in time, but it still has to stand as a negative nonetheless. Now, first of all, in this multiplayer session, hardly anybody, literally nobody, was talking, and that's a big no-no for tactical shooters. With no friendly names, though, I almost made a few mistakes very early on, and I was careful not to do this. So far, I haven't shot any of my own team in any Let's Play, but I have come close once or twice. With a room full of noobs like me, it actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't know it at the time, but the majority of the players in this particular server were noobs like me. So we all tended to keep quiet because we don't know what we're doing, pretty much. So like them, I kept quiet at first. Not really knowing what the situation was, I tried to listen and support the team where I could. Our first mission went okay. There was no lag, there were no floating teammates. Everything about the multiplayer session seemed tight and on point. But I did start to notice some issues with the game. The audio, the ambient audio is okay, but the audio occlusion is quite poor. This means that identifying enemy positions is pretty difficult, especially when you're trying to identify their vertical position. Now, on a map that you don't know, this kind of thing makes things much, much harder, and it also kind of breaks immersion. What I've discovered in years of making YouTube video reviews is that it's the audio which basically defines the immersion. The graphics are less important, but the audio has to be tight and spot on, and it's not quite there in this game. Now, unsurprisingly, I did die, but not the way that you might have expected. Oh, really? Even in a hardcore tactical shooter, this distance of fall really shouldn't have killed me, I don't think. Nonetheless, once dead, you can actually watch your teammates continue, and it was pretty interesting to watch them. This team of two here, using the slide door opening mechanism, followed by a grenade, was pretty darned cool. Sadly, the AI was pretty stupid and just stood by the door, waiting to explode. GG. Now, I had a few more games with these guys and had a bit of a chat with them, which is how I found out that they were all mostly noobs, not all of them. Some of them actually knew what they were doing. And during most of the games we played, the AI destroyed me almost every time. I got my ass kicked, despite playing on a relatively easy difficulty. Now, I attribute some of this to not knowing the maps, but mostly it was the audio that kept tripping me up. So my time allowed by Steam was nearly up, and I was not entirely impressed at this stage. Some aspects felt pretty great, whilst others didn't. So I started to surmise in my head at least my overall feelings towards the game, and what I was left with was an overwhelming opinion that I would have to say the game was not recommended, but potentially could be one to watch for the future. In fact, I think I highlighted the fact that it was definitely one you should watch for the future. But the problem is that I'm reviewing what the game is today, not what the game is tomorrow. And today, I wasn't convinced, and I wasn't sure it was going to evolve into exactly the type of game that I wanted to see. So it was at this point that I went to refund the game on Steam, but I decided at the last second to instead go and speak to the community directly first. What I didn't want to do here was to undersell Ground Branch. If I had missed something important, I wanted to make sure that I knew I had done that. So it was on Ground Branch's Discord where I met 𝗦𝘂𝗃, and so he is Ground Branch's community manager, and he has been for the last 2 years. Very passionate about the game and very knowledgeable about the game as well. So he was very gracious to set up a quick stream. He got some people to come into his stream with him, and I'm going to basically show you the highlights from that that stream. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here, so well worth a watch anyway.
But yeah, I'll tell you what, Sim. I put my money where my mouth is. I have old game key I bought with my own money. I'm actually sitting on right now. If you play past your 2 hours and you don't like the game and you regret not refunding, I will give you a game key to give away during the video.
Okay, man.
Let's see
Okay.
here. So you can adjust. You got difficulty settings and all this. The veteran is like really hard, so we're gonna turn it down a little bit. 30 is the standard number of bots. You can select your spawn and stuff. So the ready room alone, I think, is one reason why Ground Branch is really unique compared to most games. Is because when you come into the lobby, instead of it just being like a line of text or you see people's names, I can actually be like, "Hey, Clark, show me what you got." And you can like put his arms up, and I can inspect or whatever. I can inspect his vest and be like, "Hey, I don't want anybody to bring frag grenades this mission or something," and he can go change his stuff. Then once we're good to go, we come in here, and then we'll be like, "All right, so." Typically what I'll do with my guys is we'll look at the board and I'll be like, okay, you're Alpha, you're Bravo. We assign elements and then we devise a plan. And in the future, there's a good chance that we'll have stuff like like the ability to maybe draw on the board for a plan. I don't know if you're familiar with the ATAC system that like special forces guys use, but if you've ever seen the guys in real life that have the like chest mounted androids, like the smartphones or whatever on their chest,
Sure.
they have a couple different kinds of like blue force tracker or this one called ATACs they use where they can place markers and shit like that. So they're going to try to bring that to the game too, where you might have to look down at your chest. You'll be able. So instead of having a mini map on your screen like Call of Duty, you'll look down either at your chest or your wrist, and you'll have a device that you actually interact with and stuff. So just like instead of squad, how you have a compass across the bottom of your screen, your compass is actually on your wrist.
That's very cool.
All right,
Okay.
so we're gonna go ahead and do substation. I didn't mean to make it nighttime. Hold up. Hit F4, Clark. Yep. So just like that, I can press F4. It returns us to the ready room. Anytime we have any bugs or issues or whatever, we can reset within seconds. We're back in the game. Now I got the keybind for my magnifier here. Magnifier is really great when you want to run like CQB but have a little bit of range. Okay, I'm shifting left. Got eyes on the sniper. Holding breath. Popped him, one shot. All right, yeah, try to clear that right side as best you can, and we're gonna hit the sub door.
Side note, animations are one of the things that are like being worked on as we speak.
Okay, that's key.
So one thing that's cool about Ground Branch, here, let me activate cheats so I can show you something. So you can go to admin menu. You have all this stuff to play with here that I can do. I can freeze the AI. I can kick people or restart the map, whatever you want. So right now I'm going to enable cheats, which allows me to do stuff like, for now, I'll go ahead and turn on God mode, and I can use debug cameras by hitting Control Insert, Control Home, and page up. Allows me to disconnect from. So the way people take screenshots, come here, John. Come stand next to me and face the way I'm facing. So this is one way that people can take screenshots. Hit F12. Hi, friends. Stuff like that. So you can actually play in third person using cheats if you want. But what I was going to show you is, so in Ground Branch, you can actually run while ADS. So you have 3 movement speeds, right? You have walk, run, and sprint. Okay. So you can walk and run while ADS. So when we do door breaches, come up here, go high ready, and high ready conserves your arm strength. So I'm going to prep a flash for you, John. Ready? Flash out. Oh, okay. Start the clown music. Flash 2 going out. All right, hit it. And we run through the doors so we can breach really quickly. Bang, bang, bang. Kill any bad guys. By catwalk. Where you at, John? Fuck, I'm dry.
I'm on the bridge.
Okay, I think I cleared the office. Stay over there. I'm going to come your way.
Copy. Reloading.
So another thing about Ground Branch is it's a true first-person shooter, which means that everything you see in first person is the exact same thing everybody sees when you're in third person, right? Some games animations are different based on first or third person.
Yeah.
So what that happens is it causes what's called height over bore. I assume since you're a sim channel, you understand what that is.
I've not heard of that before, but I know what you mean.
Right.
It's a
So
Call of Duty thing.
So like you see right here how my optic does not see that ledge.
Yeah.
Well, I just shot that ledge because the bullets are coming out of my barrel and not my face. Unlike some games, your bullets come out of your face. Some games.
Yeah.
Shit like that. So you got all these realistic physics things going on with realistic recoil for the most part. Like recoil you see in some games that makes your screen jump up all crazy style is not realistic. Okay, I'm on you, Clark. And so with my team, I train these guys for hours and hours some nights, you know, so like we've cleared these maps hundreds of freaking times, but we still try to find ways to mix it up and be different.
Will you find the AI in the same place every time, or does it?
So in the old builds, like a long time ago, yeah, they would be like pretty much stationary, but now their pathing is improving, where they will patrol and do things. Now, once you've engaged them, they kind of have a different set of behaviors. Like once they're aware that they're under attack, sometimes they will get stuck or they'll hide in a corner. See, like these guys right here, they just patrolled around the corner at us. I took them out.
Yeah. You've got this set on the easiest difficulty, haven't you?
2 of 4 right now. So yeah, the AI is something that's going to get worked on, you know, over the next major updates for sure. But they've been working on a lot of the core elements of the game. Like they're redoing all of the animations right now. So it's part of the reason why the next big update is taking so long, is because they're changing out the skeleton for the character models and completely redoing all the running, all the reloading animations for every gun.
Yeah, so come that update, the game is going to start looking even better in motion. It's going to be great. I can't wait, honestly.
All right, so you got stuff like this. You have light boxes, so I can kill the lights in this tunnel. I can shoot the light box, and it kills the lights.
And that way it stays off.
I'm going to show you. Go ahead and pop that door open. I'm going to frag right outside here. Set. And I'm actually have God mode, so I'm going to show you this frag. Oh, of course, it goes under the rail. Look at that. Is that not freaking gorgeous? Is that like not the most realistic frag grenade you've ever seen? So you can place a breach charge on the door, and then it pulls out a detonator. And then we'll just pretend that we're being all tactical right now. Okay, 3, 2, 1, breach. And then you go in. So that's one thing that Ground Branch has right now that a lot of games don't, is a functional, breaching charge like that. So you can do all this cool stuff where you can stack up. You can like stack up and use breaching charges and flashbangs, and then go dynamically through a doorway running while ADS.
Can you use a breach charge on a wall?
No, only doors.
I mean, to be honest, if you've played and loved Terrorist Hunt and Rainbow Six 3, you're gonna feel right at home already.
Rainbow Six 3 is definitely one of the reasons why I thought I would absolutely fall in love with this game. But the problem I had was 2 hours in, I was like unsure. I wish Steam would give you like another couple of hours.
Yeah, that's true. That's one of Steam's issues, I think. If it was 5, I think it would make a bit more sense.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like some games, are longer than, or not that long either.
Yeah, I get that point.
And me personally, just my personal opinion, like I don't really understand the whole refunding thing. I've never bought a game before and been like, oh yeah, I don't like this, I'm gonna refund it. Like to me, maybe it's just because I grew up in the days of GameStop, but like I've never bought a game and thought, oh, I'm gonna refund this. So I don't know. I live with my purchases. I don't necessarily understand why people want to refund after 2 hours. I feel like you can't know any game in 2 hours, so I think it's kind of a weird policy for Steam to even have that, honestly, for like a 2-hour thing. It should be either like, yeah, like a whole day, like you get to own it for a week and then return it to decide or something. I don't know. All right, so now we'll show you a little bit of night vision action here. Oh, I should have brought a gun with a laser, but whatever. Okay, let's go up the right side, Clark. We're not going to deal with the death door right now.
I have a question. In the next updates, the terrorists at night will have some night vision or not? Just lights?
So right now, the AI's vision isn't affected by night, or they can't see flashlights or anything like that. But in the future, yes, they will have different vision for times of day, and
So
they will have
equipment for night, right?
Whether the AI get night vision, that might depend on their faction. Like you're going to be playing against like PMC, like certain PMCs on one map. Like you're playing against Tangos who took over a tanker ship right now. So I don't necessarily think these guys are supposed to have, night vision equipment and stuff like that. But they will eventually be affected by lights, lasers, time of day, weather. Okay, squeeze.
Okay, thanks for the info.
Squeeze. Tell you what, I'm gonna go kill the lights. Any other questions?
In terms of, is there a roadmap?
Yep.
Yes.
There's a roadmap and a FAQ you can check out.
Okay, cool. So what's the end goal? What's the end goal for?
The end goal for the game?
Yeah.
It
says it's single player and online multiplayer. So what's the single player aspect going to be? Is it kind of?
So the single player will be a hotspot campaign. It's not going to be like Call of Duty where you have 9 missions that are connected by cutscenes and all that. It's going to be what's called a hotspot campaign. We'll have a world map. So there might be a couple of missions that are connected, like something random off the top of my head. You might rescue a hostage or something, and then you get intel from that raid that gives you another mission, and then that's how the stories will progress. But there'll only be a few missions, and then you're going to go to a new place in the world, essentially. So you could think of it as like a bunch of little mini campaigns instead of one.
Sure. Okay. In that environment, would you be controlling just one single person, or would you have a team?
So there will be friendly AI teammates. You could imagine it as a combination between the old Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon.
Okay, cool.
So there won't necessarily be like a planning phase. Like you won't be able to give preset commands like Rainbow Six. It'll be more like Ghost Recon, how you'll have your TAC map, like I mentioned earlier, and stuff like that, and you'll be able to give orders.
Is that in place at the moment, or is that something that's going to happen in the future sometime?
Oh no, yeah, none of that's in place. So, like right now, they're busy working on things like getting the dynamic lighting tuned up, just basic optimization, the animations.
That's obviously going to be the next big thing, isn't it? The animations are going to be.
Yeah, I believe that, and we'll be able to go prone too.
I'll show you.
Glad you said that. Yeah.
Solder patching, solder touching, whatever.
Yes, there will be prone in the future. So check this out. Just come meet me at the middle, Clark. Let me show you a little bit more the lighthearted side of the game. Need to change the default time of day back to noon. Okay. Yeah, so just come meet me in the middle, Clark. We're gonna do a little pistol 1v1 for you. So I've had countless long nights of friends just hanging out, having fun, doing stupid stuff like this. So you take the blue side, Clark, or fine, yeah. Put your back to the sandbags, and we go 3, 2, 1, fight. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. So this just gives you a little example right here of how Ground Branch gives you all kinds of freedom. You can go in here, you can play deathmatch, you can make up stupid mini games. We did one where we did like a Mexican standoff where we had like 6 guys with shotguns in a circle, and then we go 3, 2, 1, go, and see who the last man standing is.
Sounds fun.
You got, for content creation purposes for your YouTube, hold on, Clark. You got this really great free cam, so you can use your scroll wheel to speed up or slow down. And I also have, under my cheats, I also have one of my favorites here. Come back towards the middle, Clark. Called slow-mo. Pretend like you're doing cool guy stuff, Clark. You're engaging targets or whatever. And like, oh, that's not slow enough. Let's slow it down a little more. Switch primary. Yeah, so the content creation aspect of Ground Branch is honestly one of my favorites. I have my own YouTube channel where I've made videos of stuff that we do.
Mechanics that are in the game, which I purposefully haven't discussed yet because this is the first 2-hour review. So it's like 4 guys doing this, is that right?
So it started with John, Lone Ranger, and then he got Chris, which is the lead programmer, on board in like 2013. And so they worked as 2 guys like part-time for years, off and on the project. And then they brought in 2 other guys. So yeah, then there was like 4 around 2018. And then now we're up to like 6.5.
That's okay, but that's good. That's going to help development, I'm sure. How often do you expect an update? Is it once a month, once a couple of months?
So like once a major update comes out, like 1031 came out, then you're going to see a couple of weeks of like patches and things for like the first month after the main update. And then there'll be like usually around 2 months, and then it'll be the next major update. So it's like about 3 months between major update cycles with a month of patches in between.
That sounds pretty good.
I'd say, things like the animations and maybe the AI in the future, once they start hammering that down hard, they might make patches take a bit longer.
So having spent some time with ProLaz and having decided to hold on to the game and give it more time to really get a detailed understanding of every aspect of it, and be able to comprise a more detailed, more concise review, I decided to test the AI out on their hardest settings on the oil tanker. Now, I had about 25 minutes left of my 2-hour review window, so part of this is going to be included as part of my 2-hour review, right up to the next bit of video that I'm going to show you. But I actually continued playing on after that, because obviously I was trying to make a more detailed review. And by doing this, I identified some much bigger, significant issues in the game. They really started to stand out more. It only took maybe another hour and a half or something, but by doing this, I really started to focus in on some of the things that I didn't feel were quite right in the game. So I really thought that the tight, close-quarter battle fighting was excellent. When holding the gun in ADS and walking, it felt really, really good. The speed was right, the responsiveness was right, it felt very realistic. Equally, the gun's modelling and gun audio I felt was top-notch, and the number of attachments, they're vast and very impressive number of configurations that you can put together. The bullet velocity physics in close quarters seems to be very accurate. I didn't really get a chance to test out any sort of long-range fighting. And the map locations and design I felt were really very nice indeed. I like the waiting room area, although there's a lot more I need to discuss about that. But yeah, the whole package was very hardcore, very realistic, and it ticked an awful lot of boxes. But there were some negatives. I felt that the UI was good for a hardcore environment. For experienced hardcore players, it would be very quick and intuitive to pick up and start getting into the game. For those who are less hardcore or less experienced in this environment, it's not very accommodating really for new players. Now, during my 2-hour review, I didn't have that much time to look at the tutorial, so I will go back over that for the full, more detailed review, and hopefully I'll be proven wrong in a couple of areas there, and there'll be more information about important mechanics that are in the game, which I purposefully haven't discussed yet, because this is the first 2-hour review, and that didn't come up during the 2 hours that I was playing. I've got to say that overall, I found the AI to be pretty poor. I felt their movement was especially poor, and the enemy, for some reason, seemed to shout out just before they start shooting at you, and they just do this way too often. On super hardcore, they are at times unrealistically accurate and responsive, or completely docile and non-reactive at all. There doesn't seem to be much middle ground. The maps are too few, and the AI spawn in almost the same place every single time you play a map. Worse than that, they have exactly the same patrols. This really benefits people who are making videos and trying to make themselves look super cool, because they already know where to look. I wish it was mixed up a bit more and there was no guarantees of where people were going to be or what sort of movement they were going to make. More information is required, I think, for each attachment item. Now again, if you're dealing with guns in real life, this isn't going to be an issue for you. But I think for new players or players who don't just play shooter games, then what we really need to see is some sort of explanation about what it is, what it does, maybe even some suggested combos that you can put together. It didn't take me too long to find a decent combo, but I'm pretty sure there are better combos out there that I didn't find in those 2 hours. And if you want to show a game off, you know, and you've got a 2-hour window, these are the kind of things that can really speed up that experience. I've got to say that despite being able to get into a multiplayer server very quickly, and most of the time they were all populated, there are limited open multiplayer access servers available. There are a lot more that were locked, that had passwords on and stuff like that, but maybe you don't want to join a team straight away. I feel this kind of behaviour segregates people, and it's not very inclusive for new players either. I also ran into the gun not firing bug quite a lot, and there were some additional bugs where I was trying to shoot enemies at distance and it just wasn't working. I couldn't have missed him every single time. I don't know if there's bullet drop at distance in this game, but certainly the gun firing bug and the sort of hitbox issues that I experienced were quite frequent. And the reload animation confusion that I mentioned earlier, when I reload and I think it's got a bullet in because I've tested it and then it doesn't. There just needs to be a way of checking the ammo there. the inability to check magazines for rounds at the moment really sort of makes things just that little bit more frustrating. The animations of the characters were okay, but again, graphically it's not really on point, and some of the animations I felt were a bit janky sometimes. There are too many areas I found that you simply cannot climb over or walk under, even though there doesn't seem to be any good reason to suggest why that should be the case. I feel there also needs to be a faster automatic walking speed when your gun is lowered. So when you're ADS, I think that speed is perfect. But if you drop your gun, I just feel like you need to be able to walk maybe 10-15% faster just to get to the next corner, just so you can bring your gun back up and get back into ADS. That doesn't exist at the moment. There is a mechanic where when you're in ADS, you have 2 different walk speeds. And that second walk speed is great, but I had a bit of difficulty getting that working, to be honest. So that's something I'm going to have to look into for the more detailed review, which is coming straight after this one. As mentioned already, I felt that the graphics were not great. We're not talking next-gen graphics here. And at a distance, even on 4K, they were quite pixelated and blurry. You can get over that, but it didn't look great, I have to say. And additionally, and more importantly for me, the audio occlusion seems really poor on all of the maps. I really felt that was one of the key areas where this game failed to impress me. And additionally, for a hardcore tactical sim, it just seems odd that there's no prone option. I remember when I first played a Star Wars game and you couldn't go prone. That really annoyed me and basically ruined the whole game for me, because it's such a basic mechanic that all military personnel use frequently, and to not have it there seems a bit crazy. In addition to that, and this is something I'm going to have to check on, I couldn't find any melee option either. So I'm not sure if that is in the game at the moment or not, but within a 2-hour review, it seemed like it wasn't there. So I'm going to have to check up on that as well. So as you can see, there are actually quite a few more negatives than positives, but even though there are more negatives than positives, I still felt like I should really be in love with this game. Hence my not recommended but definitely one to watch review on Steam.